This is the Viking. Tiki Man and myself are back from OWFI, but first we'd like to complete our Poets Roundtable with Kevin Rabas and Ann Baker Brin. Enjoy!
Well, it would be very difficult for Brian to read his 80,000-word novel or me to read a 60,000-word novel, but it would be a lot easier in a podcast to have poets read some of their work. Do you have something for us today, Kevin?
Sure, I can do something, and I think Julie has things too, so we'll both read a little bit.
Yeah, why not?
So this is a short poem from when my son was a little boy. My son talks with everything. He's 2. When he goes outside and touches the tomato plant, it flowers white. When he looks up at the starlings, they talk to him, and he talks back, a chatter, their language. When a plane flies overhead, it wobbles its wings. Elliot waves. When he goes to the water, the turtles put up their heads and nod. Everything wants to know him. Everything calls, and he says, yes, 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 let's talk.
Snapping of the fingers.
My arthritic hands can't do that anymore. Another piece, Kevin?
Sure. So I've got a book with a lot of kind of kid and middle school / high school poems, and I'm a webhead. I like Spider-Man, and so I think it's super cool that we've got all these movies now that can introduce Spider-Man and many incarnations to other people. So here's one, Spider-Man. Let me start over. Spider-Man. With Peter Parker, the change comes from a spider bite. The small, smart guy becomes strong, scales walls, dodges punches, punches back. In 7th grade, I'm a runt, 5'2", but with poems I catch Donna's eye, her fist full of flowers. I run and jump, grow 7 inches in 1 year, swift past the track star and Jim when Donna collecting flowers watches me run. I go out for basketball, stand under the rim, jump, tip the ball in, and we win, and we win, and we win. For a year we're stars. I'm tall. My body catches up with that desire to lift, dunk, return to the earth like a satellite, like a meteor, hot rock, like a man who can sail down to the sidewalk held by the strand of a web, and from that hand, spinnerets. So, there's a Spider-Man poem. I actually wrote a bunch of Spider-Man poems, but that's my favorite.
Favorite superhero?
Yeah, I'm certainly yes. I'm a Peter Parker guy.
Well, I have a counterpart poem,
okay.
If I may be so bold. This was actually, I've been taking creative writing classes just on and off for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work at Newman University as an admin. So again, I had to escape the red tape and do something fun. Dr. Brian Dietrich there was teaching creative writing class, and he challenged us to write a superhero poem, but from a minor character's point of view. So this was from an assignment, but it got published in Sheridan Edwards Review at Newman, and so somebody liked it. I hope you like it too. They call me MJ, but it sounds sweetest when called out by my dearest friend, the truest of my identities, and we all have many identities, even a girl in the world like me. His girl next door, that's how I will stay, my constant after all my roles have been played, the model citizen, the enemy, the dutiful daughter, the stalked, the loving sister, the chaste, though whether chaste I will not say, the one who never needs to be rescued, but he rescues anyway. I should tell him I was on to him long ago. I should remind him I fall back out of his web every time he catches me. And maybe I should tell him he can save me from everyone else, but not from myself. Then again, there is always one more day.
Nice.
You have a piece that you could read from your forthcoming collection?
Oh, and wait a second. Let's talk about that. So you have a new book coming out?
I do. This is my first book. It never really occurred to me to do a book until I saw a contest a few years back that said, 60 to 90 poems. I'm like, oh, I have that many poems. I could throw that together in a manuscript and submit it. And so I did that for many years, actually. I submitted, got rejected, retweaked, submitted, got in the semifinalists, submitted, got a hybrid offer, submitted, and then finally won the Amity Prize from Anamkara Press in Lawrence. That's a Celtic word that means soul friend, Anamkara, which I love. And so part of the prize is this publishing deal. Holy cow. It's kind of a hybrid process too. I mean, I need to do my own publicity and marketing, things like that, which I want to. I want it to be an organic, relationship-based situation. But
And when does this come out?
the official publication date is May 17th, which is a million years away. Well, maybe not by the time this podcast airs, but May 17th. But yeah. But
what's the title of the collection, please?
It's called The Sigh and Flutter. Not the ah. The ah isn't part of that.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes. So, I always want to start off with the first poem, which it's very short. All of these are very short. I have a short attention span, and but I wanted them all to fit on one page too. Aloft, the giants we stand on are so sweet and unassuming, silent. We forget them. We forget them. Their shoulders are so soft. We sink right in. So that is a poem of gratitude and thankfulness and recognizing that I didn't do this alone. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Kevin is one of them. Absolutely. So many people who came before me, and I always want to remember that. I hate meeting people who are like, I did this all by myself. No, honey, nobody ever does anything all by themselves. So
we know that the creative process itself is solitary, and you start out that way. But if you have inspirations, if you have teachers or people that you've read, you're right. That's all part of it. They're included in your journey.
Yes.
Do you have another piece that you can read from that new collection?
Sure. Just one at random. I'm a doggy lover, and there might be dog hair in all your microphones by now, probably.
If it's my stuff, there's dog hairs all over it. So
I'm going home to cats. Great.
So this is one about my doggies. Prestidigitation. There's a clinical veterinary term for removing a dog's toe, but I can never quite think of it. Only the medical magic that it can be done, and the canine can fully recover, never hinting they can tell the difference, never cognizant of the slight adjustment, never acting as if tricked. That was one of the Kansas Authors Club honorable mentions in their free verse poetry contest a few years back, and one that is in my book.
And Wadey started off with prestidigitation.
Yeah, she went through that pretty well.
I messed up on pronouncing something else that was totally normal, but
that's usually the way it is. That's usually the way it is. Now, of course, most poets are really good, or even writers are really good at reading their own stuff.
Not me.
For the most part, you at least pronounce your title correctly. What are your feelings in terms of slam poetry or performance poetry? Because we're not talking about reading your work, which you know so well. Do you enjoy that? Would you venture into that?
When I was still a teenager, I used to hang with the early slam poets of Kansas City. I even have a book called Elizabeth City where most of it is set in slams across Kansas City. I was not very good at it, but I was a fan of people that did it well, and I think it shaped the way that I write and read as well. The closest I came to that, I think, is we had a gig at Cup and Saucer in the River Market for about a year where I would read out for an hour and a half once a month with jazz accompaniment, usually just a saxophonist, sometimes a bass player. And we tried to keep the attention of visual artists for an hour and a half, folks who'd had a little bit to drink, and it was just a guy up there, me, reading poems with usually one accompanist, and it was slam-like. I mean, you had to kind of get a little bit wild to keep their attention. So there was that. And then the slam poets that I admired were really dynamic. And so this is me like 5 years later taking what I learned. I'm not really a slam poet or performance poet, but there is a performance element to what I do. And sometimes I'll play drums while I'm reading or have a funk band. So I guess that is performance. But it's a capability that I admire, and I draw a little bit of the energy from that.
That's to be said for sure. What about yourself?
I can't seem to find that middle ground that is. It's either, for me, it's like contemplative, reflective poetry, or it's rock band. So, you know, I used to be in a rock band, and I wrote the original lyrics. And so if I'm going to be doing something with a beat and that energy, I'm going to be singing it too. So my poetry isn't necessarily like that. And I don't know why I've never been able to sort of find that middle ground, but I'm still young, right? Maybe I'll do that eventually.
You can.
So what did you play?
I play my vocal cords in public. I only play my instruments in front of my dogs, and even they don't really like it very well. So.
And have you written songs before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the lyrics mostly, when it was a band process, it was mostly they would jam, and then I would come up with the lyrics and the melody to go with whatever instrumentation they're doing. Sometimes I do it first to come up with the melody, and then, but that was rarer.
And the one thing that I found is with the slam poets that I knew, and if I saw their work on paper, it didn't work on paper. It only worked because they were able to. Kevin, you read well. I've heard you read before. And that is part of your influence from the slam poets. That's part of your influence as a musician. But there's a difference between reading your work rhythmically and metrically and being a performance poet. Your work I've seen on paper. I've seen Julie's manuscript. Sometimes these performance or slam poets, it's just the writing, and they know where the nuances are. They know where the beats and the measures are. And it's got the expression performance poet, but it's heavily geared more toward the performance than in the poetry. I myself enjoy listening to a poet who thinks of themselves as a poet reciting their own work, because I think there's something more connective. I think they're in tune with what they've written.
Right. I mean, there's a kind of maybe a large strain of slam poetry, which is based solidly in confession and in how that confession is delivered. And that's not everybody's cup of tea. There are bridge poets who do both very well, who you read on the page and you hear and you're like, that's amazing both ways, like somebody like Saul Williams. I'm a little bit behind when it comes to who in the lineage to look at right now, but there are a number of folks who are that in-between bridge, who you can read on the page or hear, and it's equally good either way. But I know what you mean. I mean, another bridge person would be Amanda Gorman, who was a youth poet laureate, who is brilliant on the page and also a great spoken word poet. Huascar Medina would probably fall in that category too. Great on the page, even better when you hear him. And he comes from that tradition. Now, you may have branched off from the performance poet or spoken word poet tradition and burrowed into another tradition. But it's interesting. There's somebody, I've forgotten her first name, but Tempest, who I like quite a bit. She's a UK performance poet / slam poet who is just as interesting to me as Saul Williams was to listen to. And so, but you're right, I guess it's kind of emphasis, you know. Do you go to a punk rock show for imagery. Maybe not, but some have it. So there's that. So it's complicated. I don't know if I'm engaging enough to simply be a slam poet, and so I picked my lane.
Yeah. Go down the proper highway that suits you. That's fine.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm too much of a white girl, so. But Ponder This in Wichita, I think, do those fall into the category of slam poets? Those are a lot more, just so much energy and on stage and in your face sometimes kind of performances. So.
Well, I mean, you used the expression cup of tea, and it's true because there's all kinds of poets, there's all kinds of performance poets, and I even differentiate performance poems from slam poems. I mean, because one is designed to be far more engaging or in your face. Performance poetry can be confessional, can advocate for social change and show a slice of life. I've just always found that slam poems were designed to be, I'm going to get your attention and I'm going to hold it for these 3 minutes. As opposed to, we just heard you folks read and it sounds endearing and accepted. I can accept what you're doing. Maybe I'm just getting too old to have somebody get in my face with, poetry.
Tell me a little bit about confessional slam style.
I mean, it's complicated. Looking back at the tree of poetry and looking at the branch with folks like, Sylvia Plath and Ann Sexton on it, moving forward to maybe people like Kim Addonizio and Dorianne Laux a couple decades later, we've got a strain of poetry where folks may talk about taboo subjects in a diary-like way, but turn the personal also universal. And in that strain, there are a number of poets probably influenced, if you go back a little ways, by the Beats, to read their poetry out, not really read it, to recite their poetry in front of an audience for a ranking. I mean, that's what the slam is. Right. You get a 10, a 9, an 8, etc. Usually you win as a group, but a few folks like Saul Williams could win as an individual. Rooted in counterculture and rooted in kind of polemics, sometimes political. It has its uses and powers. And you've got also folks down that tree like Gil Scott-Heron and Amiri Baraka, who are bringing the poetry to the people, so to speak. And so you've got a lot of tree branches interweaving. I'm not a pro at slam poetry or a historian of it, but do find it fascinating and a part of the tree that we can draw energy from and that speaks to young people. It's a way of getting young people into poetry. Like listen to and watch button poetry on the internet, and suddenly you might want to be a poet. And what kind you'll become later, that's not really up to me. But I like the energy of it. I am kind of calm. So, if you set me in the front row of a comedy club or a slam poetry thing, I might have to put my ball cap down a little bit so that I feel a little bit of like a turtle with its shell. But I still love it. And so, I love a lot of things that are not like me, so.
Yeah. I think Gil Scott-Heron's The Revelation Will Not Be Televised is still prescient to this day, even more so 50 plus years later. So sometimes, and I think it's true of any writer or any artist, sometimes they hit upon something that is of their time, and it takes several decades for everybody else to catch up and go, oh, wow, that still works.
Yeah.
And Kevin, do you have anything getting ready to come out?
I have a new and selected poems which will come out in early 2027. So it's about 7 to 12 poems from each of my 16 books plus some new material. And I can't really say the publisher, it's somewhat secret still, but it's being revised. I will meet with my editor tomorrow about this. We've been at it for about 2.5 years. It's hard to slim down and decide what gets to live and what gets to be out of print.
Right.
Maybe there'll be a collected poems if I live long enough. But for now, this is the next best thing, and it's a way that you can get my books now. A number of them are out of print, so this is the only way you can get them. And it's exciting to do the new work, which will include these kind of American pop-like things. So I feel privileged, thankful, and blessed that it's coming out, and that I get to see it come out.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I have to tell you about an interview that Kevin had, and I can't remember if it was just for Kansas Authors Club, but you were describing the process of putting a book together. It might have been with Tracy, it might have been with Meadowlark Press, but you were talking about how you decided which books went in, or which poems went in the book, and you said you would have all these pieces of paper all over your living room floor. You'd spread them out and kind of move them around to figure out the sections and things like that. And then you said something like, oh, and if we decided we didn't have enough poems, I'd just write a few more. And I'm just like, what? you just write a few more, like poof, like that, huh?
It's kind of like putting a book together.
Blows
You
my
see the
mind.
gaps, and you know what you need to do to fill those gaps up.
Yeah, but there's a difference between, writing a whole chapter or something like that. My goodness sakes, that's rather impressive.
I'm gonna sound, like I'm overdoing it, but it's something a little bit like Bruce Lee, be like water and be ready. If you're always sharp, you can do it. If you're not, it becomes drudgery. But if you feel ready, it's not that hard.
Well, I think any creative, if you want to continue, you have to keep the mind open, the eyes open, the ears open, all the senses active, so that whatever you encounter, you can go, wow, okay. Driving and you see something that could inspire. I think those are the most successful creatives, are the ones that are open to what their surroundings are to draw inspiration from it, because even Brian with his fantasy work, it's still, there are examples in contemporary life that he can draw from as well.
And like we said, you guys have the Botanica event coming up in April. Anything else?
So I will have my launch of my book at Watermark Books on April 30th, the last day of Poetry Month, squeaking right in there. So
Excellent.
I am terrified.
Don't be. It'll be fun.
Remind us what time it is, too.
It'll be 6 to 7-ish.
I hope it's propelled with enough rocket fuel to launch it into an orbit of celestial magnificence.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm trying to get back into poetry
I don't
again.
have a heart attack.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. And how do we always close these up?
We always close our shows with the same line.
Read a book. Wow, we actually timed that perfectly.
Yeah, well,
this time.
sometimes we're on.
Good advice.
Thanks, guys, for being with us, and thanks for passing on your poetry and to us and to anyone who may be listening.
Thank you. It's
Take
an
care.
honor.
Thank you.
Tiki Man and the Viking Podcast, brought to you by Rumination of Thunder Media. The following intro and outro music was used for this media project. The music Find Them by Alexander Nakrata. Free download from filmmusic.io. License Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International.